The day is getting closer. My journey is almost over. And when it is, our journey begins. For everyone that's been waiting, I'll make sure it's been worth it. The question is, when the stars align, will you be there?
Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJ Omega channel for day 1240 of our daily content grind, and because it's the beginning of the month, we are going to be doing another Q&A where you get to ask me just whatever you want as long as it's within TOS. So, quick reminder, if you want to have a question answered for the next Q&A, here are the rules. They are on screen right now. One question per person, so everyone can get a turn. I will ignore any subsequent or secondary questions. Quick answers only. Don't ask me to create entire toy lines or plot lines on the spot. Keep it all within TOS, no profanity, and you know the vibe around here. Just stick to that and you'll be fine. And if you're just leaving a comment, please mark it as such at the beginning of your comment, just so we can get to just the questions for this recording. Yeah, and always put the question first if you have both. Also important. We also do not want to hear questions about Gundam or realistic gun transformers. Those topics have been asked so many times, and the answer is always the same. They're officially off limits. But with that out of the way, shall we begin? Starting off, do you think Hasbro should permanently leave Paramount and move to another movie studio like Universal? I definitely think they need to cut ties with Paramount. Like, between the last few movies just being just terribly marketed and just the disrespect they had for the show that was created, yeah, they could do way better than Paramount at this point. At the very least, just to change things up, and hopefully a new studio will actually freshen up the franchise, because it desperately needed it. You're trapped in a room with no doors or windows, only a full collection of your favorite Transformer toy line. Would you be able to escape? I don't have enough information to go on here. What are the walls made of? Because if they're concrete walls, I'm boned. You know, they're plastic toys. There is no stipulation here that says, oh, these would be like actual working characters or something, and, you know, Cybertron Menasor could just drill through a wall. My best bet would probably be to just build a pile of Cybertron toys and then use Metroplex, the biggest, like, you know, like the longest one, to just kind of like bash away at the ceiling, because there's fewer joists than there are studs in the walls, so I've got better chance of getting like open space that way. But no, probably not. Probably not. I mean, I don't have enough details to go off of on this one, but I'm probably stuck. Honestly, no doors, no windows. It doesn't matter. I'm going to suffocate in about a minute. If Unicron had the ability to create sentient beings to populate his planet, both surface or create his own primes, what would the civilizations be called, look like, and what would his primes be called? Unicronians, yeah, you've kind of got it there. Technically, they're called Minicons, because he did do that in Armada. But it's getting into some, like, deeper story stuff. In particular, we have a benchmark for this with Rodimus Unicronus, and Unicronus is not a really like pleasant or like fluid title, but it's Unicron. I don't feel like it has to be. So we kind of have a little bit to go off of to actually figure out what that would be. I'm glad you appreciate the writing advice. I don't have a lot of it. I don't know if I'd do like a whole writing advice series. I fancy myself a writer, but I'm not like a pro or anything. I wouldn't feel comfortable like doing an instructional thing about it. But I'll give tips where I can. Besides G1 and Bayverse, what do you think the most influential Transformers series is? Well, are we including Beast Wars as G1? Because it is a sequel to G1. I'm going to exclude those, and I'm going to say Armada, because that pulled in so many new kids to the franchise. Keep in mind, Transformers was kind of struggling along after Beast Wars. Beast Machines didn't do well. RID was a filler line. Yeah, Armada brought a whole new generation of fans in. and they're the ones who are the adult collectors now. So yeah, I would go with that. I would go Armada as one of the most influential. I know it's weird hearing me compliment Armada, but it's true. If there was a Starscream draft and every Megatron was forced to pick a Starscream to command over, who would be the first and last pick? I would say first would be Energon for loyalty, and Cybertron would be last because he's a legitimate threat. There are Starscreams that are bigger threats than the Cybertron one, because the Cybertron one was at least quelled at some point. Like IDW Starscream was a bigger thorn in everyone's side, and he stuck around all the way to the end. I think the first one, you're probably right, because Energon Starscream is the only one that's just, like, mindlessly obedient. Beast Wars 2 Starscream would have a chance, too, because he just kowtows to whoever's in power at the time. So as long as you've got enough power and authority to keep him under your thumb, he's not going to turn on you either. So either one of those would be there. If they made a G1 style Scorn, would you want him to look like the 80s depiction of a Spino or a more modern depiction? It really would have to be an 80s style in order to, like, fit in with the rest of the Dinobots. I don't think I want a modern Spinosaur, which is, we're still figuring out the Spinosaur. It might, like, now we're figuring out it might have been a belly crawler dinosaur, and rather, something that's like very low to the ground. Rather than like what Jurassic Park had, which is like T-Rex with a fin. But no, I do think an old school one would be better. That way he fits in with like, vertical T-Rex Grimlock. Which Devastator color scheme do you prefer? I prefer the yellow and purple over the green and purple. I'm waiting for the weird person in the comments to say they prefer the orange and the purple. No, I am traditional. I am a green and purple, but then again, green is my, like, obsessively favorite color, so that really shouldn't surprise anybody. If they did another series like Animated, where the core Autobots were all unified in the type of vehicle they are, to elaborate, they were all emergency vehicles in one form or another, what unified theme would you want them to use? Military vehicles, street racers, trades, etc. So, I mean, I've pitched the idea of using military vehicles for a while, just because it's like an ideology flip, where the Decepticons are usually the more like blend-in vehicles, and the Autobots are the ones that are more aggressive to try to take out their enemy quicker. And traditionally military vehicles are supposed to be depicted as the good guys. History says otherwise, but that's what we're supposed to do. I don't know. Like, I mean, the rescue vehicle thing was a pretty good one for Autobots. I don't know if there's another, like, unified theme that would work. Yeah, geez, I'm having a hard time pulling something out of my head there. Like, I like the ideology flip concept. I don't know if it'd work for a series, but it'd be interesting, at least. Question semi-comment. Please don't do this. We're trying to get through these quickly, so you really do need to parse what you are talking about. Let's see. Essentially, it's like the idea of like the Mistress of Flame being a retool of Solus, if that really is appropriate, since Solus is some kind of truck. No, I don't think that fits the Mistress of Flame. I think you could retool it into something that would work a little bit better, but frankly, no. It really would be one of those, like, tick the boxes, because otherwise she's not going to happen type figures. I think that's the only thing that I can really glean from there. Given the retail listings from Cyber World we have so far, do you see the series focus on a trio of concepts and Transformers, being mechanical represented by Optimus Prime Megatron, and the other vehicle Transformers, the natural beast aspect represented by Scorponok, Grimlock and Galvatron, and the cybernetic digital world by Mirage, and maybe some other character? I don't think it's going to be like hard split like that any more than it normally is. There's a lot of Transformer series you could divvy up like this. And I don't necessarily agree with the idea, like, I don't think they're, let's put it this way, I don't think they're going to limit themselves to, like, here's a group of, like, this group can only be this group can only be this group can only be this. I don't think they would limit themselves, like, because they need to make the toys as diverse as possible. So running with themes on them, I don't think is going to work. And I don't think they're going to go that route. You know, from the listings, I feel like we're going to have like animalistic characters on both sides. See, I had the terrible dream of the new Skybite being a pre-tool of the long-awaited Sharknado collab. Am I the false prophet that should be burnt down? I mean, at that point, it's just a shark. It's not going to be a Sharknado collab. If anything, it'd be a Jaws collab. But no, you're just having a bad dream. It's just having a bad dream. Like, get some melatonin, maybe some like warm milk. That's good. Some sleepy time tea. Sounds like you need better rest. Have you tried switching your mattress? Or, oh, foam pillow. A memory foam pillow changed my life. Get yourself a memory foam pillow. If money were no object, would it be possible to create a combiner that consists of multiple titans? We've answered this before. If we have answered this before. No. Structurally, there's so many little pieces that go into figures like that they really would not be able to support the weight of like multiple titans stacked up onto each other. You got to think of like how the ankles of those toys would have to be engineered. You'd have to have like all metal construction in the lower legs titans. Like those two titans that make up the lower legs would have to be like metal skeletal construction in order to actually combine. Now, obviously, if money was no object, you could make it work, but then you're talking about probably about $100,000 to custom build something that big with enough structural integrity to actually hold up. You know, that's basically the thing of engineering. As long as you like, if you can fund it, it'll eventually work. It'd be enormously impractical, but you know, it would eventually work. Okay, so in the future, when you do something like this, if you like want to resend a question, just delete it. Just delete your comment and post a new one. Because this just kind of leaves people wondering, like, okay, what did you do that was that depressing? But I will say, what's the most complicated model kit you've put together? I don't really go for complicated model kits. There's always that part of me that thinks, like, I'm going to go to an anime convention. I'm actually going to drop $200 on that master grade or real grade Gundam that's incredibly complex so I can just build all the individual internal parts. But ultimately, I've never seen a Gundam I enjoyed enough, I like the look of enough for me to actually pull the trigger on that. And frankly, I like building models, but I don't like building things that are over complex. I think the Kotobo Kia Liger Zero is like the most complicated model I've built. Like, I really haven't gone into anything incredibly detailed or complex, to be honest. You briefly talked about this cartoon in your Gary Chalk interview, so I'm wondering what are some of the things you liked about 2002 He-Man? I did like the cast of characters. I liked the expansion of the original fiction. I liked how they played with characters who didn't really get much of a chance before, like giving a backstory and some serious, like, evil credit to Evil Lyn. Or, like, starting to play with the Snake Men, which is a concept that was so late in the game for the original He-Man that the characters, at least some of the Snake Men, had to be ported over to She-Ra just to have their toys on the shelves and have them be relevant. I like getting to play with those kind of aspects. I wish they had gotten that last season, so we could have gotten Hordak, potentially She-Ra, and actually like gotten all the He-Man fiction in there. I like the action to it. I like the animation style. Like there is a lot to like about that show. I do think it was trying to be a little bit too close to the original in that sometimes it was very simplistic, and but I think it did enough to actually like flesh out the characters the right way. Especially like Teela, Man-at-Arms, like they got to be like expanded in ways the original series never wanted to touch on. If Transformers and Warhammer could get a crossover, do you think the Autobots or Decepticons would ally themselves with the Imperium of Men? I don't know Warhammer. I'm sorry, I have no answer for you. I can't. I don't really have an answer on that one. Sorry. I am glad that, like, there's a lot of people who use me as a comfort YouTuber, and I do really appreciate that. I don't appreciate YouTube discouraging actual interaction with my audience by giving me AI-generated slop for comment replies. disgusting. If you could have any vehicle as a Transformer partner, what would it be? It can be anything, car, jet, helicopter, etc. I wouldn't want anything weird, because I wouldn't want it to stand out too much, you know? Like, it probably would be a car. And probably a nice car, because if it's a Transformer, I'm not going to have to worry about getting, like, expensive part replacement, you know? Like, most modern Transformers can self-recover and heal. I don't think I would have to worry about fuel. Save me a lot of money on my commute. Keeps the house safe. Just having that watchdog right there. There's that train of thought, but I also don't want the Autobot to end up the same way as, like, Bumblebee did in Revenge of the Fallen, just kind of stuck in the garage all day in vehicle mode. That's not fair to them. That's tricky. You know what would be cool is if like, can I just pick Chrome Dome? Can I just have like a nice sports car that transforms into Chrome Dome so the headmaster can just pop off and like just hang out at home and just be like normal? Favorite use of the Siege Hound mold? I'm probably with you on the Orion Pax. It's not my preferred Orion Pax, but, like, if I have to pick something other than Hound, because, like, I mean, my preferred overall would be the Earth Mode Hound, because that's the one that's been missing from that set for a long time. But Orion wasn't a bad one. Not my preferred Orion, but it wasn't bad for what it was. Liked it better than the Hotshot. The Hotshot felt very forced in. With Hasbro and Mattel willing to cooperate, how long will it take for us to get a Thomas the Tank Engine crossover? Not sure. Not sure. I mean, anything that Mattel has, if Hasbro and Mattel are willing to cooperate to an extent, then they could pretty much do just about anything. So, who knows? Thomas the Tank Engine would be hilarious. Some weird retool of Astro Train so it retains the jet mode, the shuttle mode, rather. Be funny. Let's see, do you think we'll get more TV shows or comic books set during the Beast era from the Transformers franchise? I don't think we'll get it set during the Beast era, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got something that harkened back to it. The same way that a lot of modern Transformer cartoons and comic books base themselves off of that original G1 story, but, you know, trail off in their own directions. I don't think we're going to get anything that literally touches that universe again, just things that will be inspired by it. Why do you think we haven't gotten any G2 Protectobot representation outside of Botcon? Is it popularity of Defensor in general, the G2 Protectobot being the most obscure of the four combiners, or something else? I don't really know. I think it's because the legacy and the notoriety of the G2 Stunticons, I think just like overwhelms it. So the weird thing about obscurity is that if there's something that brings attention to it, then it gets really well known and really popular. Otherwise, it just kind of languishes. Because we got one G2 Stunticon breakdown at Botcon, it made everyone aware that the four others did actually exist. So they became the most coveted collectible in all of Transformers. Anyone who has the cash would love to own one of the 10 examples that toy has. But with the Protectobots, we know they existed, and there are people who own the examples, but because they didn't have that one figure that was put in the spotlight, they kind of go forgotten. You know, and it is a bizarre situation. Like, I was kind of looking back at, like, the Combiner War stuff and going, like, yeah, they never did do Protectobots. They never did G2 Defensor. What was that? What happened there? Odd. Let's see. With Hasbro working with Sega on a Sega crossover, a Sonic crossover, do you think they'll do the same with Nintendo? Truth is, Nintendo really doesn't play well with other companies. They want to do as much as they can in-house, and it's extremely rare for them to let anybody else do anything. You know, they let Lego do some stuff, you know, and that's about it. And while the Mario company has actually gotten better about their franchises and license, if this was possible, it would have happened by now. And the example is the Mega Drive Megatron, who by all rights should have had a Super Famicom as Optimus Prime, but they went with a PlayStation instead. And the only reason they would have went with a PlayStation instead is because Nintendo wouldn't play ball. So there you go. That's all the proof you need. Do you think Bumblebee could work with a flying alt mode? For example, a small helicopter or airplane. This is one of those, like, it kind of depends on the story things. There are times where we get to see Bumblebee do different things. He was a hover car in Cyberverse during the last season. That was fine. During Rescue Bots. During Rescue Bots, everyone in Rescue Bots turned into something else at some point. Like, we have like a dragon and a raptor Bumblebee because we had Rescue Bots. So yeah, you could make it work. Like, it was a cute little helicopter that was like vaguely like Bumblebee inspired. Like, it looked like the actual bug kind of. Yeah, you could probably make that work. And they won't do it because they want it to be like as nostalgia friendly as possible, but you could make it work. If we can consistently get licensed alternate modes in both Masterpiece lines as well as the mainline Studio Series line, how come we haven't gotten licensed vehicle modes in lines for Legacy with their G1 characters? It's not about can we get the license, because we can. It's about we don't need to spend the money for the license. Understand, the license for these vehicles is expensive. So that cuts into the profit on the toys. On Generations toys, they can get away with a look-alike. It has some elements, some parts, but mostly it's its own thing. They can get away with that. In this case, it's not about, like, we can't get it. It's a matter of it's not cost-effective or not necessary to the brand. And honestly, I don't think it is necessary. I don't think every vehicle in Generations needs to be 100% real-world accurate. It could be, but I think that also limits what the design's capable of. And yeah, I have no issue with it. I think it's not that we can't. It's just that we're not. It's not necessary. At least not to Hasbro. Over the last few years, there have been a lot of very obvious repaints that Hasbro simply hasn't done. Universe Razor Claw, Cryotac, Action Master Thundercracker, Machine War Starscream, Armada Skywarp, just to name a few. Now that Triptychon has been announced for Selects, do you think some of these missed opportunities could happen, or do you think their moment has passed? Considering they spent years sitting, after Diaclone Twin Twist before they got around to Diaclone Topspin, I don't think there is such a thing as the moment has passed anymore. Keep in mind, they used an almost 10-year-old Generations mold to do 86RC for Studio Series. It's not a matter of, oh, their moment has passed. It's just a matter of, is there the right opportunity for it? Like, something like Action Master Thundercracker, that one slips by because the paint and molding process to make that work is kind of ludicrous and wouldn't really be something they could turn a dime on because it takes too many processes to make it happen. Botcon could get away with it because they can charge whatever they want. Hasbro has to stay within their own kind of cost limits, so not as much. As far as Armada Skywarp, I don't think that's too late at all. Cryotech and Universe Razor Claw, absolutely not too late. I would much more look at those if they ever do a Generations, like a universe-inspired subline. Like how we know that this year we're getting a subline at Walmart based on, like a capsule line, based on Cybertron. I would not be surprised for them to do one for Universe, because it's one of the only ways you get to repaint the Silverbolt toy that they did. So I don't think it's too late for any of those. I think they're just saving them for the right opportunities. I currently work a full-time, fairly manual job, but I am trying to pursue Transformers fanfic writing as a creative outlet. That said, I often find myself either so worn out or tired that nothing ever really gets written beyond basic story ideas or outlines. To be fair, it feels like a rut, and I want to try to break out. Any advice or means, tricks that worked for you at similar times? So, it's been a long time since I was writing fanfics, so it's hard for me to really explain this. I mean, I kind of fall into the same thing with trying to come up with daily videos when I have, like, a job out of the house to focus on. For me, I find myself figuring out what my video is going to be during my actual, like, work day. So like I'm lucky enough that my day's calm enough I can focus on both in a sense. During like a manual labor job, that's a little bit harder. Honestly, I feel like the only advice I can really give is just kind of keep poking at it. The thing is, it's not a bad thing if all the progress you make is story ideas, outlines. Like, if you come up with a story idea and you have these little moments in your head that you really, really like, go ahead and try to write them down. You don't have to write page 1 if you have a really good idea for page 48. Just write that good idea for page 48 just so it can exist. And then if you want to write after that, just a little bit. You don't have to start from square one. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. There really isn't a right way to begin. And there isn't so just put the stuff that is the foundation of your story. Is in the jigsaw thing, that would be your frame. The things that your story is going to be contained within, and then worry about filling in the rest of the image later. As long as you're doing a little bit of something, writing down some notes, some bullet points, or just writing 1 or 2 scenes at a time, that's still progress. And eventually you find your own groove, you find your own thing. And as you see those things being written down, you're going to start finding your brain will come up with ways of connecting it. Seeing it and being able to read it in physical is so much different than just like letting it float in your head. So hey, look, more writing advice from TJ Omega. Don't worry about starting from page 1. Write what you have. And then just connect the dots when you are comfortable connecting the dots. The most important thing is you just make a little bit of progress. That's it. Other than Scar, what other dinosaurs would you like to see introduced as part of the Dinobots? Thank you very much for the kind words here. I'm glad you're looking forward to Magnetar. I hope a lot of people are, because I really am trying to put everything I can behind it. But other than Scar, the Ankylosaurus, what other dinosaurs? Well, I'm not a big dinosaur expert. I know I should probably say, oh god, where's Red Claw when I need him? I'm trying to think of other dinosaurs that haven't been Dinobots. Like, we got a raptor, we got an Ankylosaurus now, a plesiosaur, that's paddles. We don't have paddles in any like major canon. That would be nice. I'm trying to think of other ones. Someone mentioned a Spinosaur. Like, if we get like an actual Scorn as part of the main Dinobots, that would be cool. An Archaeopteryx would be really interesting. Like a G1 style Archaeopteryx. How does that even look? I think that's the go-to answer for me, because I really like the Archaeopteryx, and I think it would be fascinating to figure out exactly like how do you make that work as a purely mechanical form. Do you have any intentions of remaking your old quickfire reviews into full random reviews, or do you think you would make more quickfire reviews for YouTube Shorts? I'm not going to retread old ground by reviewing toys I already have, even if it is just in the Rush review format. But I do kind of want to try out Rush Review as a YouTube short format. I've told you before that I'm in the process of setting up a studio room. A set for YouTube Shorts is part of that. So, yeah, I have plans. Going by the Guy Gardner Red Lantern story, Cloud Rodimus leads the Decepticons in a way that they work with the Autobots but keep their core identity. Interesting you say Cloud Rodimus in this situation. That definitely won't work with every Decepticon. Like, you could put a leader in charge of the Decepticons that has a more like standoffish approach to the Autobots, and are more focused on just being themselves and living on their own. Like in IDW 1.0, that was kind of what Soundwave fell into. Just leader of the Decepticons who didn't want to follow the new order that Bumblebee and then Starscream put in place on Cybertron. So you could do it. Again, this is another one of those classic TJ Omega answers of, it really depends on the story. It depends on how you write it. See, which Transformers collab would be the most boring one in your opinion? See, Animorphs. We've been there already. I'm not familiar enough with Action Man to understand the reference. Voltron Transformers, I think, no, I would disagree with that. Like, a Voltron where the Lions had individual robot modes, I think would be awesome. I think that would be really awesome. Retool me some Predacons into Voltron. Please. I mean, like, when you tell me, like, the most boring, crossovers, like, my brain goes to, like, oh, Transformers and Frasier. like, nonsense stuff that would make no fun toys whatsoever. No, I don't want a little Kelsey Grammer toy, not at this stage of my life. I don't know for sure. Like, the thing is, like, any answer I give is going to have some level of interest to it. Like the funny ones would be like, I'd have to go, like, super obscure. Most people wouldn't even know what I'm talking about. Like Turbo Teen. Because he's a teenager who turns into a actual car. And no one really knows how that works. That's an old cartoon. That is an old cartoon. But yeah, like, most of the ideas that I come up with, even the ones off the top of my head, are not boring. They at least have some kind of fun thing to them. Like, to come up with something super boring is like... I'm blanking. Like, I'm blanking. Everything has at least some humor to it. So even though Reactivate is dead, could they still take the designs they made for it and release them as figures in Concept Studio Series? Absolutely. You know, we have Gamer Edition and Concept Series stuff in Studio Series for exactly that reason. Hopefully we get that, because those toys are really, really good. The problem is, those toys were made, at this point, like 5 years ago. They were under very different budget constraints and very different design philosophy. I'm not sure any modern toys made to match them would actually live up to them. So that's the big question. Do you think Transformers should get a hero shooter game like Marvel Rivals? The trick to a hero shooter game with Transformers is, how do you work the transformations in? Like, how would it be fair in a hero shooter to have Starscream flying around in jet mode? How do you balance that? How do you balance a tank suddenly showing up? Like hero shooters kind of rely on, like, corridors and tight corners, which are not really good for cars and trucks. So you'd have to design an entire game focused on, like, how does the transformation element work, and then come up with everything else. I mean, it could work, but it's definitely a tricky concept. Battle of the Dragon Predacon leaders, who would win? Transmetal 2 Megatron or Predacon from Transformers Prime? Probably Transmetal 2. I mean, yeah, like, intelligence comes to mind a lot. I don't think Predacon has a power advantage either. Remember, Transmetal 2 Megatron was created by combining the spark of Beast Wars and G1 Megatron. It is depicted as an extremely powerful form, like powerful enough to stop Optimal Optimus in his tracks during their fight. Yeah, I think Megatron's got this one. Predacon is powerful, but I think he is comparable to Megatron, and Megatron's got the edge and the intelligence. Given Takara has the license now, do you think there's a universe where we see a Brave Series X Transformers collab with Chug quality standards? My question is, what would the point be? Because anything Transformers would do to a Brave figure, it really isn't anything it wouldn't do itself, you know? Like, if I took a Gal Gaigar and I gave every part of Gal Gaigar a robot mode, that would overcomplicate things. I don't think that engineering would work. That would be a struggle to make that work. And, like, a lot of Brave stuff already has just normal transformations, you know? Like, Gal Lion, like, he just transforms. He has a robot mode. I don't think you'd really get anything, like, substantial. I think, like, at most you might see some, like, one-off figure, like, oh, well, we took that brand new Cybertron Hotshot, and we did Volfog, just because we could. that's the only thing that really strikes me that you might get out of that, but I don't think you're actually going to. What can Age of the Prime's Prima be retooled, repainted into? I think he'd make for a good Beast Machine Strika if you add missile pods. I don't think he's got the bulk for Strika. Strika is a very heavy, top-heavy character. The Prima is kind of standard proportions. It's difficult. The only thing I can really think of repainting him into would be the way he looked in Generation 1. Like, you would retool the chest to be a lot closer to how that animation model looked. You would give him the pale blue coloring that he had during the 5 Faces of Darkness flashback. That's about all you could. About all you could. Do you like Top Gear, The Goonies, Gremlins, or Killer Clowns from Outer Space? If so, how come we haven't seen a collaborative figure yet? After all, we could end up transforming Stick. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. Just going to stop right here. Top Gear would be funny because it is a car show. I don't think there's enough for The Goonies. Not only does it not really make sense to make a transforming robot out of, I would say the exact same thing for Killer Clowns. I think, the fandom for both of those is past. I don't hear anything for Killer Clowns unless Halloween's coming up. And then Gremlins, maybe, because, Gizmo's kind of like an 80s icon, but again, not really indicative of something I'd want turning into a car, or, I don't think I would want a Mogwai that turns into a robot. I think Top Gear is the only thing there that's really, suitable. Not every single franchise needs to have a crossover. There's just some, you just need to stick to the ones that make sense. Otherwise, you're just kind of forcing it, and it's just meh. What else do we have? What are your thoughts on vehicle combiners, like G1, G2, Dreadwing, or Big Powered? I mean, I do like the opposite way. Anytime we come up with something different, I like it. Vehicle combiners are neat. I've really felt like for a long time that was your solution to characters like Reflector, who couldn't have, you couldn't make a toy camera that kids are gonna buy. But what if we did God, it had to be leader class now. I was thinking of this when we still had $30 ultra classes. But just a set of 3 that combine into one vehicle. And then that's how you get that whole combination thing in, but they had their own vehicle modes, so it's they could stand independent. That kind of crossed my mind at one time. I do like them though. They're different, and we don't have enough of them. If you were to bring back the Minicons as part of a toy line, what are some of the ones from the Unicron trilogy you would pick? Or some ideas for new ones? So, again, I'm not going to come up with brand new ones because that's a whole process in and of itself. It's not a quick answer. Honestly, if I was going to do Minicons as a toy line, I would stick to the partner ones because those are the ones that are most well known. If I'm going outside of that, then Street Action Team, that's obvious. The only other ones beside that would be I would start picking out favorites, but really I think those are the only ones you really need to focus on, just the ones that were really prominent in Armada. Anything beyond that, I wouldn't put in a toy line because they're not as memorable and they're not as in demand. You keep in mind, we are in a market for Armada toys where we have Megatron and Starscream, we have Hotshot, Optimus Prime, and Red Alert's very close, and none of them have their Minicons. And we have Tidal Wave now, who doesn't even have a Minicon. So yeah, you have a lot of room there to actually produce those. I would stick to those because they've created demand for them by completely ignoring them. In 5 Faces of Darkness, Rodimus Prime did die and pass the Matrix of leadership to Springer. What would the new Prime's name be, and would he have been an effective leader? We've kind of discussed this before. Literally the only time that the Matrix has adapted somebody into a new form and being, given them the name of Prime was Rodimus, and it's because he is the chosen one. That was a destiny for that to happen. When Ultra Magnus got the Matrix, he didn't change shape, he didn't change name. He was just the leader of the Autobots and the bearer of the Matrix for an afternoon. point being, it wouldn't change. It's only Rodimus. That's the only one who changes when he actually takes the Matrix. So yeah, we kind of answered that one before. So yeah, that's gonna be my firm answer on that one. Of the remaining G1 female Autobots, which of them do you want to see return in modern generations again, especially with the possibility of them having an Earth mode with Alita and Chromia? All of them. All of them. You know, like, I would even give Alita a better one because I still don't think she's had a toy that really hits the mark. Like, the last toy we got for her was good, but I still don't think it quite hit the mark of, like, how she looked in G1. Not that you're going to get that slender female form into a Transformer. You get my point, though. You get my point. But yeah, like, considering the only toys that a lot of those characters from the Search for Alpha Trion actually have are all the same mold retooled over and over again, they all need new toys. And like Firestar's top of the list because her truck mode looks absolutely nothing like the car Hasbro retooled her into. Imagine if Waspinator creates a clone of himself to overthrow Maximals and Beast Wars Megatron. Happy New Year, but there's no question there. I'm going to assume, like, what would happen. Here's the thing. They're all still incompetent. Even if Waspinator could clone himself enough to, like, to the point where, like, he's an actual threat, he's still incompetent. And he's still very easily blown up. Yeah, I don't think it would go well for him. Especially against Megatron, I definitely think Megatron would be able to figure out something to just, like, put a stop to that. Have you ever watched an anime and liked it so much, you went and rewatched it in its opposite language? The only time I ever did that was with Slayers, because, like I couldn't wait for the dub to come out. Like, when they did a brand new series of it in the mid-2010s, I wanted to watch it immediately. Fan subs for the win. And, yeah, and I watched it again when it came out in English, because I like the English voice cast as well. That's really the only time. Like, normally, I'm a dub person. Mostly because I'm okay watching it in the background. Or, like, if I'm working, like, I don't have a 2-monitor setup yet. But I'll, like, put something on my phone or a tablet. And I'll put it down here on my desk in front of my monitor. So I have something to, like, listen to in the background while I do, like, actual work. So, yeah, like, in that case, yeah, that's the only time I've really done that. Like, normally I just kind of stick to the dub stuff because it's easier for me to take in. Do you think it would be a fun idea for a mini series with, like, 5-minute episodes that just followed Autobot and Decepticon cassette bots? Honestly, like, I mean, just as, like, a comedy thing, maybe? Like, I could absolutely, like, they're doing like stop motion shorts for Transformers 1 now on YouTube. I could absolutely see them doing something similar for, like, Autobot and Decepticon cassettes going on off weird adventures. What would be fun is if they kept Autobot and Decepticon ideals, but because they're kind of like the pet characters, they all kind of got along. And they went on, like, adventures together with different approaches. That could be funny. Do you think there are any Beast Wars characters that could justify a Haslab? Maybe Magnaboss. I really think Magnaboss would be your only shot at a Haslab. And that is one of those toys I think is so complicated to actually produce that, yeah, you would absolutely need to have that. I could see stretch goals on that one, too. I could see stretch goals for that. Like you need a stretch goal so you can have, like, a swappable head for Lio Jr. so he could be Prowl instead. Things like that. Instead of one of the Myriad Enterprises or larger ships for a Transformer Star Wars collab, what if we get a collab using one of the smaller ships, like the Runabout, Delta Flyer, Data Scout ship? Literally, if we were to ever get a Star Wars Transformers collab, it's going to be an Enterprise. Sloppy as the engineering would have to be, it's going to be an Enterprise. Because why would you bother getting the license to Star Trek to make a Transformer just to do a shuttlecraft? Can you imagine the outrage that you're like, you actually got this license, you paid for this license, and you're not doing an Enterprise? You only get to do those smaller vehicles if they do the Enterprise and it sells so well they want to do more. That's literally it. And even then, you would probably get enemy ships instead. Like number 2 would be a Klingon bird of prey. You know it would be. So yeah, I don't think smaller ships are the way to go about it. It's got to be an Enterprise. You have to do an Enterprise. If you could give Manterra an Earth mode, so I'm assuming you mean a vehicle mode, because as pointed out, yes, Mantises do come from Earth, believe it or not. I know they look alien, but they are Earthlings. Probably a trench digger. Like, he's got the shape for it, you know, and like that's kind of like the buzzsaw gimmick of his claws. So yeah, very quick answer. I'd probably be a trench digger. Do you know if once scheduled conflicts is over, if another game will be on Twitch or YouTube? It's been my Sunday ritual for over a year to watch the VOD and build various model kits from my backlog. Thank you very much for watching our D&D show. So over on the the Goblin channel here on YouTube or on Twitch, you get to watch our scheduled conflicts D&D show. We are like 75 episodes in now. We're up to level 15 in the campaign. There's a lot of intriguing things going on right now. Give it a shot if you like D&D, because we put a lot of work and love into it. The cast is really, really good. I think we've got a really solid set of characters. I get to be this mischievous, magic elf man. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I will tell you, yeah, I think most of the cast has already figured out what their Season 2 characters will be, because we will absolutely be starting a second campaign. I don't know what I'm going to be yet. Haven't decided. I will tell you, though, everyone is thinking about it. With the announcement of the next Haslab in February, I've seen several videos speculating on the top contenders for who will be next, and I had an idea that would be novel to say the least, as it seems that neither Hasbro or Takara are willing to attempt to fully realize modern version of the Pretenders concept, by which mean actual articulated figures, the outer shell, basically Pretenders as a Haslab. I would go with no, because if they could make Pretenders work as a modern toy, they would just release them at Modern Toys. Haslabs are for things that are popular enough to actually get the votes, but not popular enough to work at retail. They wanted Pretender characters to work at retail for a while now, so if they could figure it out, they would do it as normal retail toys. Also, I'm gonna be honest, that's just really, really unsatisfying. Just like a collection of Pretender toys that, like, there's no combiner element to them. There is no, like, I don't know. I don't like that as an idea. I don't think that would be a satisfying Haslab, and I don't think that would really draw in the numbers they need. Yeah, like, Pretenders have always been a really, really tough thing to do. I mean, like, what you're asking, even with what you're asking right there, is actually very, very difficult to accomplish in an engineering level. Because if something like that shell is fully articulated, that means the arms and legs are completely off limits. Even the waist would be off limits. It would have to fit a robot entirely inside the chest. And then to actually turn that, whatever that is, into a working robot in vehicle mode, no. That's going to get a little bit too involved. Yeah, I honestly just think Pretenders are best reimagined at this point, rather than try to make them exactly how they used to be. What are your thoughts on Shotaro Ishinomori's Skullman, the prototype to Kamen Rider, and his various adaptations referenced within the Rider franchise? So, unfortunately, I've never read Skullman, so I can't really speak on it. I do like seeing the various references, like, you know, things like like the combat men having the skeletal motif. Kamen Rider's skull, obviously, is a very large homage to Skullman. It is nice to know that Ishinomori's original concept that birthed Kamen Rider is still remembered and still referenced in modern Rider stuff. So I like the respect that it's given. What's your preference on Optimus and Megatron heights? Same height as in G1 or Megatron a bit bigger, like Prime, Bay vs. Animated? Honestly, the comment below kind of nails it. Like, if there's a super mode for Prime, that really affects this. Personally, I like when Megatron is a very large threat. This is, again, the go-to answer of it really depends on how it's written. But the go-to answer for me here is like the thing that comes to my mind is like, I do like when the Autobots are a little bit on the back foot. And I like when my Megatron has a lot of menace to him. And if he is standing like a head taller than Optimus Prime, that does help that. It makes him seem more powerful and more ominous as a threat. So I could absolutely see that. I do like having like Megatron a little bit bigger, but it really depends on the show. Like, if the whole point is to see Optimus and Megatron on equal measures for the sake of the story, then they need to be the same height. What's your favorite adaptation of A Christmas Carol? You can tell that was written in December. Well, like, close to December. The Muppet Christmas Carol is, you know, that one is classic. My favorite one is the Patrick Stewart, because he used to perform that on stage as a one-man show, so he's very practiced at being Ebenezer Scrooge, and he's one of the more convincing Scrooges I've ever seen in a film depiction. That's usually my go-to. Like, usually on Christmases, that's my Christmas Carol I watch. How do you think Armada Overload or Jetfire would do as a Haslab project? I think creating a Haslab that depends on another figure that's already hard to get is a fool's errand. I understand the idea that these might only be possible at a Haslab level, but I kind of think that ship has sailed. Like, if they wanted to do Jetfire, it would have to be at least a leader class toy. Overload would also likely have to be a leader class of some sort. Neither has a really good repaint they could do later on to recoup the cost of those molds. That's a challenge. I don't think it would work as a Haslab though, because the Optimus Prime is already like come and gone. It's already really hard to find. Asking someone to spend $250 on a Haslab project and then tell them you need to go spend the big money on eBay to get that. You know, go spend another $150 on the Armada Optimus you couldn't find in stores before. I think that wouldn't go over well. I think they get a lot of backlash. Okay, do you read any of the other series in the Skybound Energon universe? Actually, no, and that's really a fault on me, because I know they've touched on a lot of other characters. I am a Hot Rod fan. I know he showed up for quite a bit of Void Rivals. I really should give it a chance, but like I find myself at such a loss for time on spending spare time. I really want to spend my spare time either working on the big projects like the studio room, Magnetar, all that's on my plate right now. If I have free time to myself, I want to just spend it knowing like I'm going to enjoy myself. You know, doing stuff that I'm genuinely curious, interested in, or things that I've done before and I already know I enjoy. So I don't really have the free time I need to just like jump into something, a new story or something that I'm not sure if I'm going to like or not. So unfortunately, no, not yet. What Armada toys would you do for Plastic Addict if you were to make more episodes? So for Armada, I know Scavenger was on the list. Who else was on the list? There's a couple of exceptions. Part of me wanted to do Blur, but not the normal Blur because I thought the color scheme saved it. So I was going to do Universe Swerve instead, because it's all the same bad elements of the toy, but it doesn't have that color switch from vehicle to robot that made me really start to like Blur. Similarly, I was going to do... I didn't want to do Starscream, even though Starscream has a lot of shortcomings. I was going to do Universe Ramjet instead. And should I ever get Plastic Addict back up and running, I might still do that toy. So those were floating around in my head. Offhand, I can't really think of any others beyond those. Have you bought toy upgrade kits or sticker upgrades? If not, which ones were you tempted in general opinion? So I'm very much like a be happy with what you have type. The only upgrades I ever bought was like the City Commander trailer for Classics Ultra Magnus. Bought that. And then what was the other one I bought? I did buy stickers for Star Saber from Repro Labels. But no, that was to replace the fact that he had no stickers on him. As far as upgrade stickers, I've never done that. And that's usually because, in general, I don't really like the look of stickers. Like, I don't like looking at the toy and seeing those raised edges where I can see, like, that seam between the toy and the actual decal. I don't remember. Yeah, like, I'm trying to remember. Like, something in my head says, like, no, you did this once. Like, no, I don't think I did. If I did, I can't remember offhand. Oh my god, okay. After that fan fiction question here, I will ask you a simpler one that's filling my screen right now. What do you think of my idea for all after the takes on Optimus Prime once friends or enemies by taking a future series? Like, okay, I'm gonna skip this one. No, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna critique a fanfic live on the air. Like, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be punchy here because these videos end up being 3 hours. So unfortunately, I'm gonna veto that one. I'm sorry. Just like, please don't give me so much to read. Like, I'm trying to be like really quick. Out of the Botcon sets that never saw the light of day, which one would you like to have seen brought back? Honestly, I don't know any. Like, I will be honest with you. There's a video there's some video floating around in my head of like looking at like someone requested a top 10 of canceled Botcon toys, and a lot of those like concepts for future ones come to mind. Honestly, I've never really looked into many of them. Like, off the top of my head, I can't really tell you like a box set or a theme that made me go like, "Oh, I'd like to see that," because I really haven't thought of it. I really haven't looked into it. So unfortunately, I don't quite have an answer there. You stated recently that Gigatron and Devil Gigatron wouldn't be a good possibility for Haslab, but after the Ecto 1 Haslab they just did, could Hasbro give the option to back one of the two versions of the character, colored version or even both, with stretch goals of being... Okay, so stretch goals are never going to be independent Transformers. So you're asking like Autobot Brothers as stretch goals. That's not going to happen, because with Transformers the engineering is so complicated, they're not going to be able to throw that in as just like part of the price. So that will never be a stretch goal. Like, if they actually announce a Haslab Lio Kaiser, the only possible stretch goal you might have would be a Death Cobra, and that's because he'd be a retool of Hellbat, so he could fit the exact same spot in the combination. But that's it. You aren't going to see like completely new toys for completely new characters locked behind a Haslab where they cannot be retooled and repainted at retail later on. Like, there would be no point to cramming them and locking them behind Haslab when they could just release them at retail and frankly make a lot more money than they would on a Haslab. Understand, like, they'll profit from Haslab, but not nearly as much as if it's something they could release at retail. And RID Prowl and X-Boron, absolutely something they could do at retail level and make a lot more money off of. And no, you are wrong. RID Prowl and X-Boron both have repaints. They come from the Universe line, so you could get at least 3 uses out of each of those molds. You know, see, that's the thing. When you look at the Transformer ones in the past, the only extra figures we've ever gotten have been Micromasters. That's it. Like, brand new molds for brand new, like, deluxe size toys, that's just way too expensive to do as a stretch goal thing. That's not going to happen. So, yeah, like, stretch goals are always like extra weapons, extra accessories, blast effects, a display stand. Simple things that don't really affect the bottom dollar. Yeah, so I think that's misguided. I don't think that would work. If you were offered a spaceship from any media, which one would you pick to permanently own? Astro Megaship. Power Rangers in space. Not only because I get to turn it into a giant robot, which is a blast, but also because apparently it floats around Earth without ever being detected, so that makes it a nice little safe haven. It's fully stocked and equipped to live on because all the Space Rangers lived on it for that whole series. You could apparently just beam down to Earth with it, so like I could still go places, do things on the planet. Yeah, I think that's like an all-in-one answer there. I think that's an all-in-one answer. Also, I get the fun companion AI that runs it. Do you think a working and product size transforming blaster / Soundwave would sell? I mean, are you literally talking like a working radio or a working tape deck? I mean, it would sell for the novelty. That's one of those, like, why would you do that? But it would absolutely work for the novelty. Like, if by working you just mean it can play sound and music, you do what Music Label did. They had a Soundwave that was an MP3 player. That works. That kind of accomplishes that. So yeah, I think it would work. It'd be crazy expensive, but I think it would work. I think it'd sell. Soundwave would. Blaster, maybe not as much. Do retailers have any creative input for their exclusives, or do they take whatever figures Hasbro couldn't slot elsewhere? Hasbro's the one who comes up with the concept, and the store has the option of accepting it. That's how that works. So, like, when Target was offered things like Hound and Hatchet for Buzzworthy Bumblebee, they turned it down. Hasbro had the concepts, but Buzzworthy wasn't selling well, so Target said, "Yeah, we're not stocking that. No, thank you." So it's Hasbro that comes up with it. It's all entirely their creative. Because keep in mind, the people at Walmart, they don't know or care about obscure Transformer characters. They don't know anything beyond Optimus, Megatron, and Bumblebee. That's the only three that the paper pushers at Walmart and Target actually know. And that's just because of general pop culture absorption. No, would not work. No. It's all Hasbro. Hasbro makes it. They offer it around. Since your Lugnut video is recent, I thought of a question I'm surprised barely anyone asked, which is, what will happen to Lugnut if the war ends or Megatron turning to the Autobots? If Megatron turned to the Autobot, like if Megatron were to end the war, Lugnut would probably just go along with it. Like, as long as it is what his, the glorious Megatron wanted, he probably would just kind of like mellow out and kind of take it for what it is. If he was around when Megatron became an Autobot, he might have a crisis. He might have like a crisis of conscience, and like that might be an existential crisis moment for Lugnut, which would be a fun story to tell. Do you think the original Beast Formers would work this time and age, or would be too niche, like newer toys for a White Leo or Platinum Tiger? I'm going to assume you mean Battle Beasts? The sister line? Yeah, you could maybe make that work. Keep in mind, we're in the furry generation. You could make it work. There are far weirder things on the toy shelves right now. See, what do you think Blaster isn't as prominent as Soundwave? Soundwave is in almost every iteration of Transformers, but Blaster rarely is. 2 reasons. A. Soundwave came first. He was in the first season. He's been around that 1 year longer, makes all the difference. So he is given a lot more. He's given a lot more reverence, especially because the fact the original toy sold so well. It's one of those toys that was carried on for years and years, even after the character wasn't really in the show anymore. And they were continuing to support that character in those toys with more cassettes. You know, Soundwave got more of those than Blaster did. And the other one, the voice. Like, I'll make fun of Cybertron for the fact that I feel like they replaced character personality with accents, but I will absolutely be the first one to tell you the reason a lot of these characters are memorable is because of the little ticks they had like that. Soundwave's vocoder voice, Wheeljack's flashing ears. That's really memorable, especially to an impressionable kid. So that is why Soundwave tends to stick in minds a lot better. If Hasbro scaled back the engineering and complexity and made more toys on the same level as, say, Dark of the Moon figures for more modern generations, would they realistically be able to lower the prices to make Transformers more affordable and kid-friendly again? You kind of see that with the Warrior class toys in main lines like Cyberverse, Earthspark, Transformers 1, or equivalents like Prime Changers. That's basically what you're getting. Like, you're getting much more simple articulation, more simple engineering, but, you know, they have to be creative with it. And I think they tend to be really creative. You know, like the Sentinel Prime they did was pretty good. I am still a really staunch defender of that Core Series Air Razor that was supposed to be mainline and then ended up in a 3-pack. I do feel like if Transformers continues to suffer from, like, inflation to the point where, like, we're either looking at... We'll be faced with a Hasbro that has to look at this and go, we're either going to charge $30 for a deluxe, or we're going to have to simplify the engineering. I really think simplifying the engineering is where that happens. You know, things like ankle tilt and wrist articulation will leave. They will not be as concerned with super accuracy when it comes to the robots. You know, things like that. I do think, like, the next step for us is, like, I don't think Transformers are leaving the $25 deluxe price, because I think they will start dumbing them down the way you're suggesting. Would a Butterfly be a Maximal or a Predacon? Well, by standard rules, it would be a Predacon, because all the bugs are technically Predacons. It'd have to be like a Mothra type butterfly. Like, I don't think you're gonna get some, like, super pretty, like blue butterfly as a Predacon. Like, it's gonna be like a demonic Mothra looking thing. You know, the same way they, like, took a pill bug and named it Retrax and tried to make it all super mean looking in bug mode. But technically, yes, it would be a Predacon. Probably not a one that would last with the Predacons. Probably one who would eventually be a Maximal. But it's a bug, so it's a Pred. If someone were to begin reading the IDW 1.0 comics, where would your starting point be? That's tough, because that is an 11-year story. That's really tough to say. You're going to miss references and nuances if you skip to any single point. Like, you're not going to know what the deal with Shockwave is, but or like why Sunstreaker's in a wheelchair. But I would say start after Dark Energon. I really, really like the run of comics they did after. Like, Dark Energon is a little bit rough. The ending is interesting, and it sets up the world for afterwards. But ultimately, like, Dark Energon's not a great story. I would say, like, maybe read Dark Energon if you're curious, and then, you know, if you just need to have the context for some things, and then read from there on. You know, like, read More Than Meets the Eye and thus Lost Light afterwards. Some of the better Transformer storytelling, in my opinion. Since Hasbro's redoing their G1 combiners like they did with Menasor, now doing both G1 Devastator and Superion, with their skeletal frames having extra uses like trailers or jet boosters, would it make sense for the G1 Beast Former Combiner leader to have a power armor for a super mode with those skeletal frames, i.e. G1 Razorclaw, G1 Hunger, G1 Grimlock. G1 Grimlock is not a combiner. Do not bring up Volcanicus to me. I hate the concept of Volcanicus. But Hunger and Razorclaw would be interesting. So I'm really not sure what you would do with either. Honestly, like there's nothing you can really attach to a lion in order to actually give you like that form. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. For Razorclaw, I have no clue. Like you'd literally have to just come up with a chariot he pulled. In order, like just like a chariot he could pull, and like you, like and it forms into like a little base mode and a vehicle and like the skeleton of the robot. I don't think Predacon would work for that necessarily, but if you wanted to do it with Hunger, hear me out. Hydra. You make the arms and legs extra heads, maybe a tail. Maybe like an extra tail in there too. And you just have it sit on the back of Hunger in beast mode. And you just have like these like hulking amount of heads. So you have like a proper Hydra transformer. And then, you know, that pops off to become like a cannon emplacement that uses like the dragon heads as like a big battle emplacements. And then you can like turn it into the skeleton for the combiner. I actually love that idea. I actually love that idea. Do you have any experience from the D&D video games like the Baldur's Gate series or any of the MMOs? I'm not an MMO fan. I've only played one MMO I ever liked, which is Ragnarok Online. And that's because the 2D sprite work gave me some nostalgia vibes. Baldur's Gate I have, but I've barely touched. I don't know what it is, but the game isn't clicking with me. And I'm not sure why, because I love D&D, and I know it's a game of the year. All my friends love that game. I just never quite get into it. And I feel bad, because it was a gift to me. And I want to sit down and, like, really focus on it again. Especially now that I have, like, last time I tried to play it, I didn't have the new computer. Now I have the new computer. It will run beautifully on this system. It's one of those things of, like, I know that's going to consume a ton of time, so my brain is like, don't get into it. Because you don't have a ton of time these days. So unfortunately, I don't really have experience with any of those. What's the likelihood of Hasbro collaborating with SH Figuarts or Figma for a full-scale articulated Kicker from Energon? 0 to none, because there's no universe where Kicker was a popular character for that. Like, I feel like they checked the box when they did the Microman Kicker toy. And that's it. And that's a fragile toy that's very easily broken. So it's not a great example. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. Kicker's just, like, even in Japan, Kicker was not a popular character. I don't think we're ever going to see Kicker again. Have you ever thought of doing a Mega Man videos beyond toys or like a video game channel? So, video game channels are really hard to kick off. Especially because, yeah, I do daily videos. Running a secondary channel would be incredibly stressful. Keep in mind, Astral Agent Magnetar is going to be a Twitch project. I will have a VOD channel for Magnetar that will essentially be a video game channel, because we will play video games over on Twitch as Magnetar. So I will kind of get that. I've always said the video I would love to do is a whole retrospective on Mega Man and my experience and history with the franchise. But anytime I try to do anything video game, it dies a death in the algorithm. So as much as I would love to do it as a pet project, I don't have faith in it succeeding. It would take so much work to actually pull off, and I don't think it would turn up results that would make it worth doing. Like, outside of just the satisfaction of knowing that I did it. And unfortunately, I do have to view my channel as a business. It started as a hobby. I have to treat it as a business now. And if I could put all that work towards something like Plastic Addict instead, that would get a lot more money and attention, I really should focus on that. So like side projects like Mega Man Retrospective continue to live in my brain, knowing that they will never work on my channel. And I hate that. But that's kind of how it goes as a YouTuber. You're kind of stuck in your niche thanks to the algorithm. Favorite non-Viacon Beast Machines design? Black Arachnia. I think Black Arachnia really works well. I think the toy is probably one of the best toys in Beast Machines. We talked about that in the top 10 of the year. Beyond that, God, which ones did I really like outside of like the ones who aren't Viacons? That doesn't give me a whole lot of good examples to work with. I hated the Maximal aesthetic in that series. The only other one that I really liked, and I've talked about this toy before, is Hammer Strike. Because I loved that little toy, but mine self-destructed because clear plastic elbows. And it hurt me, because I really, really liked that toy. I liked the look of it. I know it's this weird little alien shark boy, but there's just something about it that just hit me in just such the right way. And it pained me when that toy broke. And I'm so, like, scared of clear plastic, I don't want to tempt it again. I don't want to go buy another one just to have it break on me again. If a Cybertronian scanned a roast turkey, would their alt mode also be a roast turkey? Or a fully live turkey, like how Beast Wars Megatron's alt mode is a full T-Rex, even though he only scanned a skeleton? It would be a full turkey, not a cooked one. Because it's not the shape that it's emulating. For Beast Wars characters, they are literally scanning the DNA and processing it into the alt mode, which is why scanning bones works. So yeah, it's not going to be a cooked turkey. It's not Botbots. It would be just a normal living turkey. Is there a good English dub of TF Victory? Well, I finally have to learn to read. You'll have to learn to read subtitles. I'm sorry. There is no good dub of Victory. No fan dub. I think most fan dubs aren't great. But also, there's no real fan dub of it that I'm aware of that's actually good. The Omni version is horrible, as we expressed in a video last month. I think that there is a dub, but you may have to learn to read. That's not what dubs are. But this is technically correct. Yes, there's a dub. You would still rather read the subtitles. I'm promising you that. Will it be especially difficult for American collectors to obtain Missing Link Megatron when Takara inevitably makes it? Yeah, Hasbro can't legally release it on Pulse. I don't know about importing it. I know a lot of people got Masterpiece Megatron without any trouble. I've gotten 2 Masterpiece Megatrons without any trouble. The one I bought in the US wasn't even modified with an orange cap. Haha. Now, technically, as long as they put that orange cap on it, it is technically legal to import and sell in the US. But it is one of those situations where, like, they would have to be physically modified before they were put for sale. Most likely, and hopefully, Takara has a sense to pack them in robot mode, so, like, no, like, X-ray or anything turns up, oh, there's a gun in here. So we got that. It will be difficult, but I think it will be doable. There will be outlets that will actually make it possible. You mentioned in a previous video that Transformers came to Earth around the same time human evolution commenced, and hinted that the two can be linked in some capacity. How do you feel about ancient alien ideas? Do you like the trope, or how do you think it should be used in the series? I think in the Bave Formers, they tried to use a little bit of that to explain things. The ancient alien things could work if you have living Cybertronians landing on Earth. Like, maybe you could, like, write them as, like, search parties that came looking for the Ark. Because that's basically how they explain the pyramids, because, like, there's a star harvester in the Great Pyramid of Giza. So we're kind of already there. Like, we've kind of already done that. But yeah, you could use it. There's definitely ways to use it. I've noticed a lot of new Transformers shows are kind of reboots, pseudo retellings of G1. Like Skybound is a really great G1 reboot in every sense of the word. You think a reboot retelling of a different show can work? It depends on how you write it. Again, many of these answers come down to it depends on how you write it. Could it work? Yeah, because it's just a Transformers show. You know, as long as it's telling a good story and can connect to the kids that it's aimed at, yeah, you could get a good series out of it. Like, there's nothing stopping that from happening, as long as it's well written. And yeah, I think we said it before, Armada would probably be the one that I would pick. This is a secondary question. That's a no-no, but since it's in my thoughts, I will go ahead and continue it. It would be Armada, because like we said before, it does kind of have like a really influential place. My heart says Beast Wars. My heart says Beast Wars, but I know it kind of has to connect back to the original. And the thing is, we could actually throw in a bunch of G1 characters, like reimagined into the Armada way to kind of expand that fiction. So it still does have that connection to G1, even though it's introducing like the Armada characters again. There's ways to play with it that way. Was there ever a toy you wanted but just couldn't find on store shelves? My own experience with Earthrise Optimus Prime inspired this question. It would have to go back to like pre-internet, like even like when eBay was barely a thing kind of days. You know, I did a video talking about the toys that I never really got and always wanted. And the top one is always going to be the Scyther that Hasbro released in 2001. The Johto League champion one. There's two. There's a normal one, there's a shiny one. Both of them are outrageously expensive. Like, I have one, but the wings are missing. So I either need those wings or I need to be extremely lucky on eBay and catch one from someone who has no idea how rare it is. And I've missed that opportunity before and it eats at me. So that's pretty the only one I could think of. Transformer-wise, no. If I couldn't find it at retail, I just went online and bought it. And frankly, I buy way more online these days than I do in retail because, frankly, the retail shelves just aren't reliable to find toys anymore. My Target still sells Legacy Evolution toys. What chance do you think I'm going to have of finding, like, Age of the Primes figures there? Would it be an interesting idea for other well-known Autobots and Decepticons to get their own super modes like Optimus, Megatron, Rodimus, etc.? I don't know why, but Shockwave or Soundwave with a super mode just sounds quite terrifying. I don't think I would do it with Soundwave, because he's already got so much gimmickry going on with his cassettes. Shockwave would be good. Starscream would be good. On the Autobot side, Grimlock. Grimlock with a super mode would be extreme. Whew. This will again be like, it depends on how the series is written, but if just in a toy-based side of things, yeah, I like super modes. So you could get a lot of mileage out of a lot of that. If you could choose a Walmart exclusive subline theme, what would you choose? So we already know that the next one in line is Cybertron based, and it's going to include my dream figure, so I know I'm already getting what I want. Beyond that, I would maybe potentially do a Universe one. The one that comes to mind a lot, and it wouldn't work. Here's the thing. The one I want wouldn't work as a Walmart subline because all I need for it are deluxes, and it would be an alternator-based line. It would be like the Earthrise Datsun mold redone as alternator smokescreen. I would redo the Sunstreaker mold into Dead End, you know, and I would go with those. You know, that's what I would want. Those would be the cool ones for me. Because Alternators is such a historic piece for Transformers, because they were the first time they made collector's toys. They were the first time they brought back G1 characters using like imitations of their G1 vehicles. You could get a lot of mileage out of that, but you couldn't get Voyagers or Leader class toys because they didn't really have any for that. It was one size class and one size class alone. I would probably have to merge it with other ideas for like realistic vehicle transformers, like Masterpiece Starstream colors on the Earthrise mold for a Voyager. So you have that sea green that's like apparently a more realistic color, but I've not seen. But you could get away with things like that, where like you could expand the idea of what alternators could be for the Voyagers and the leader of that line, you know, specifically so that you could have like here's like a standard or like a memorable transformer, but in a more realistic color scheme. So like, okay, here's your Starscream as an F-14. He's gonna be gray with like the U.S. Air Force style emblems on the wings, things like that. You know, and kind of expand the idea of what alternators could be, so other toys could be included. That would probably be the go-to, and I'll probably do a whole video based on what I would do with that. I would like to do that as a whole video. What's the largest size class that combiner components could be? My God. We answered a bunch of these last month, and now I'm getting a bunch this month with people just asking me how big can the toys be to make a combiner? If you're talking realistic standards, you wouldn't go above a Voyager for limbs and a Commander for the body. That's it. Anything beyond that, the parts for the transformations and engineering are going to be too small for the tolerances. Anything beyond that, you'd have to expand the budget beyond what normal size classes could do. Please. Okay, I'm not going to make it a firm rule yet, but I'm just going to ask everybody listening now. Please stop asking me about combiners combining into a combiner, Titans combining. Please stop asking these ridiculous combining questions. Like most of them, I promise you, my answer is going to be no, that won't work. You know, I don't mean to be harsh about it, but like, really, guys, I've answered this so many times. It's going to be like a Megatron thing where like everyone's got their own variation, but the answer is always going to be the same. And that's not fun for anyone listening. Like, I kind of want to spread it out a little bit here. Question for the month of love next time. What does it feel like Optimus and Alita can never have a stable relationship nowadays? I guess Earth sparked my account, but I don't remember them overtly showing them in a Conjunction Dura. Am I the only one that just wants to see the main hero of the franchise have a normal romantic relationship? See, the weird thing about that is a lot of writers are against that kind of thing, which is why they broke off Mary Jane from Spider-Man, because like they like writing relationship turmoil, or they like poking fun at it. In Earthspark, they poke fun at it, because like they go like, you know, what's the deal with you and Alita 1? And Prime's answer is, well, that's complicated. I think because writers have more fun and tell better stories from the turmoil between those two, like with what happened with Transformers Animated, and then like the Netflix series, rather than just your standard like, oh, we're just kind of in this happy relationship. It's nice to want those things for your heroes, but the problem is it doesn't lead to good story possibilities. Not always. So I'm not sure this. Yeah, like I would love to see just like a nice thing that, okay, these two are just happy together. It'd be nice as a finish, but like writers like the turmoil. Who do you think could be added in the Bayverse and immediately die without being out of character for them? And why is it the DJD? The thing is, it's the Bayverse. Any Decepticon can be added and immediately killed, because Decepticons have no actual agency in those movies where they are actually like treated as characters or given any kind of menace or threat. They're just there for the Autobots to beat up at the end of the movie. They're there to die. You know? So, it really just, my answer really could just be like, any Decepticon. Any Decepticon could be thrown in and killed without a moment's notice, because it happens all the time in those movies. You remember, like, The Last Night did, like, all these, like, intro graphics, like, here's Nitro Zeus, here's Mohawk, here's Onslaught. Like, their name graphics coming up. They've all got a voice actor, etc. And then the first fight they get into, all but one dies. Like, what was the point of that? I think the DJD would actually make it a little bit... Like, they're too terrifying and efficient not to survive at least one fight. But really, any Decepticon in those movies is doomed. Are there any Combiner Wars combiners that you think are better than the Unite Warriors versions? For me, I prefer Defense Wars Combiner War version because both the presence of Rook and Groove feeling better scale-wise, though I do with his robot mode was more accurate. Trying to think now, because the truth is I didn't really go in for the Takara ones because I was just kind of happy with how the Autobot ones turned out. How the Hasbro ones turned out. And really the only grievances I had with the Hasbro ones were the replacement characters. Rook is a great toy, but I would rather have Groove there so the combined mode looks accurate. It looks like the Groove that I wanted on this team. I know it's wildly out of proportion, but look at G1. He's supposed to be wildly out of proportion. The vehicle mode makes sense at that size. The robot mode does not. I don't want to see Groove as this tiny little inconsequential robot. I want to see him as like a full like sized part of the team. I'm trying to think if one of the Hasbro ones turned out better than one of the Takara ones, but Takara went for straight accuracy first. There's oddities in there. There's like occasionally, I think pieces of Hasbro's were better. I think their Shuttle Blastoff was better because Takara went super cartoon accurate and gave him that weird painted headband visor because of the animation error in the original cartoon. I think Hasbro did a better job with Afterburner because I think he stands out better and balances Computron more when he's orange. Because the Unite Warrior one has advantages over the Combiner War one, but having all red limbs and then just one brown limb in there looks really weird. So having an orange limb in there to balance that, I think helps a lot. So I would say they did individual figures better, but for overall Combiner group, that's very arguable. Like, my biggest argument is over Computron. I honestly think both are just as good as each other for different reasons. What advice would you give to someone just starting out with Q&A videos? Don't. I'm sitting here for 3 hours doing these recordings, hoping my voice doesn't give out or become dry or scratchy in the middle of a question. I am hoping I can encode and upload this in time before my usual, 8 or 9 o'clock posting. My advice to you, if you're just starting out with Q&A videos, keep it small. Keep it small. Don't do like what I do. Keep in mind, I've got over 50,000 people following me. So these Q&As get very, very long, but I like them for engagement, and I like them so I can communicate to my audience a little bit. I want to give you guys access to me through these videos. But for someone just starting out, just do limited ones. You don't have to answer every single question. Just okay, here's my favorite questions I was asked this week. You don't have to do it by month, and you don't have to do every single one. So just keep it to what you're comfortable with. Just answer the fun stuff if that's what you want to do. Do it once a week if you want to keep it really short. But for me, once a month works because I have so many other videos. I don't want to bog down the rest of the month by having too many things okay, Monday we're doing a news roundup, Wednesday we're doing a top 10 list, Friday we're doing the weekly Q&A. I think that's just gonna strangle the channel too much. So that's why I do these super long Q&As once a month instead. But for just starting out, yeah, just keep it to a format that's comfortable for you. Have you watched the Season 2 finale of Helluva Boss, and so what did you think of it? I'm super curious where they're going with the story, especially with Blitz kind of having this newfound level of fame that they haven't really explored yet. Stolas kind of working into like normal mundane life, which is very out of his comfort zone and wheelhouse. I really do like how things ended up. Like, it's hard as a Stolas fan because it just seems like the show is just beating the crap out of him. But that's the point of this point in the story, is to give him that low so that when, you know, everyone gets their comeuppance, it feels great. You have to have the lows so the highs feel even better. You know, and there's other things I like. I'm curious where they're going to go with the pregnancy angle. I don't think they're going to go to as dark of a place as some people think. I think Millie's more worried about her pregnancy because she's the bulk, she's the heavy of the team. So, and you know, this is her best friend's company. This is like the new life that like she didn't think imps could have. So to be pregnant and be off the team and like not being able to contribute puts her husband's job in danger, her best friend's company in danger, her own job in danger. It's a lot on the line. It's a lot that it risks. I think that's more right why she's being upset over this rather than any really dark reasons. I don't think she cheated on... I don't think she cheated. Let's put it that way. Like, she loves Moxie too much. That's not going to be a thing. And I don't think anything dark is going to happen about it either. I don't think they're going to, like, spoil those two with that. Because they're too sickeningly sweet and wholesome. I am really looking forward to Season 3, though. What do you think the odds of us getting a GoBots Leader 1 from Kingdom Cyclonus mold or from the standard Seeker mold in the future? And could he work as a Matrix bearer if they were in the main Transformers universe? They're never going to give a Matrix to a GoBot. That's just not going to be a thing that happens. You could probably get a Leader 1 out of... I don't think Starscream's appropriate. Like, maybe if you retooled one of the Seekers... Yeah, like not a standard Seeker mold, but a cone head, so the wings end up on the legs and can be folded back to be more correct to the original Leader 1. The trick is, like, you'd have to differentiate him a lot in order for it to not get caught and sued by Bandai. That's the really tricky part. GoBots are extremely, extremely tricky to use. It's possible, but you're going to have to accept a few changes. Do you think Scorponok should be the true leader of the Insecticons? People answering for me in the comments. But yeah, he's an arachnid, not an insect. And really, it's Scorponok. I think leading the Insecticons is very beneath him. Usually Titan-class figures were only released one per toy line, so how did Titans Return get away with having two Titan-class figures? Because one was a retool, and they could get away with that budget-wise, and at the time, they were doing well enough, so they could kind of squeeze both of them in. You know, that's just kind of how it works out sometimes. You know, you're gonna find exceptions to rules like that every now and then. Sometimes it just works. Sometimes you just have to kind of go with it. You know, that was just at a point where, like, yeah, the Titans were doing really well. They could get away with doing two. Simple as that. What are your thoughts on Legacy United Beast Wars 2 Tasmania Kid? I mean, yeah, for core, yeah, I think it's one of the better core class toys. I did enjoy it. It gave me a taste of what could have been. And I wish we had gotten more. Yeah, it's kind of sad that core is gone the way of the dodo, because there are uses for core. We've discussed that on the channel. Yeah, it kind of sucks that they saved some of the really good ones for last. I really liked the Energon Megatron they did. What is your final prediction for the next Haslab? We did a video on this, but just for the sake of getting it out there one more time, my final prediction for Haslab is Lio Kaiser. I think every time a Haslab comes up, he's the highest demanded one. Everyone speculates that it's going to be Lio Kaiser every time a Haslab is announced. And I really think Haslab is the only way you could do everything that toy requires. It's the only way you're going to get the Breast Force partners in. It's the only way you're going to get all those colors to be produced. It wouldn't work as a Titan. and it wouldn't work at retail with how many parts this is going to take, especially because to get them to feel right, the hands and the feet and the chest and everything for the combiner has to be integrated with the toy. No separate parts that you lay around somewhere else. That's not what Lio Kaiser's about. So I think Haslab is literally the only way we're ever going to get it. Also, especially because I think Haslab's the only way we're going to get a Death Cobra. Here's my final prediction. Not only are we going to get not only are we going to get a Lio Kaiser that I think will stand a little bit bigger than the standard combiners, because it has to kind of stand at about, or maybe not. It might have to just scale with Victory Saber. I'm not gonna guesstimate the scale. It's gonna be big. But my final guess is that we're going to get Lio Kaiser. It's going to be the 6 members of the Breast Force. But it's also going to have Death Cobra. Because literally, this is the only way we're ever going to get a Death Cobra toy ever. I don't think it's going to be a stretch goal, because that'd be a whole new figure for a stretch goal, and they've never done that before. I think your stretch goals are going to be the typical display base. And it's going to be what I now know is the electromagnetic nunchaku. Like the staff that can come apart and split into different weapons that they all used, and that Lio Kaiser himself used. It's going to be that. That's going to be the stretch goal weapon. So that's my prediction. That it's going to be Lio Kaiser. If Hasbro made a Valentine's promotion where every major retailer got an exclusive 2-pack of Transformer Romantic Pair, which ones would you be looking forward to the most as both characters and as toys? Yeah, Black Arachne and Silverbolt is a little bit too obvious, and both of those toys would be exactly the same and just be a re-release. If we're going for things that haven't been done, you nailed it with Glyph and Tap Out. I would probably retool Cyclonus. To be I'm blanking now. I'd retool Cyclonus into his IDW version and then pack in like a brand new mold tailgate that we can eventually release on his own as a deluxe wind charger. I would do, like, the ones that would get me the most excited would be Anode and Lug. I love Anode and Lug because I love Shades of Grey Autobots. And I just really think they're fun characters who have never gotten toys. I would love to see them. Also, Anode's a biplane. We don't have enough of those in Transformers. What, if anything, do you think could kill the Transformers brand? Chris Cox. To be real, it's going to be one of those brands that sticks around forever in one way or another. Also, I'm just going to ask you, stop answering questions for me, please. You're now posting inappropriate answers. But no, if anything would kill the Transformer brand at this point, it'd be either just very poor handling of the franchise, which Paramount's kind of doing. Really, it would just be like the mistake they made in G1, which is just refusing to adapt to what's actually working in the toy market. Just throwing ideas at the wall and seeing what sticks didn't work in the 80s, and it's not going to work now. You know, so... But you have so many legacy characters, and it's such a well-remembered brand. They'll exist in one way or another. I don't think anything's really going to kill the brand. In your most recent channel milestone vlog, you said this channel was instrumental in meeting your fiancé. Girlfriend. She's not my fiancé. Given Valentine's is in 2 weeks as of you reading this, and because I delayed this video, it literally is in 2 weeks. Will you be willing to share that story? It sounds like it'd be very heartwarming. Honestly, no. Because it's very personal. And there are details to that I'd rather just keep close to the chest. Someday, yes. But not this year. Probably not anytime soon. Are there any unique takes on a recurring Transformers character that you prefer over how they're usually written or otherwise wish would make a return? Anime, for example, has the only version of Prowl I like, and also my favorite version of Ratchet. So, honestly, my favorite Ratchet is, like, Prime. I would love to see that version of the character come back. I'm trying to think here. I'm trying to think of what else they could do. Honestly, Prime Soundwave. Prime Soundwave is so creepy and intimidating, and I feel like every iteration since in animation has tried to touch on it while still being very, like, strict to the iconography of the original Soundwave, trying to mix the two, and I think it diminishes what was really good about Prime. So I'd really just like Prime Soundwave back, please. If the mantle of leadership for the Autobots were to move on to the next generation, which leader would you choose? You cannot, however, choose Rodimus or Bumblebee. For me, personally, I would love to see a younger version of Ultra Magnus. Let's see here. Mantle of leadership of the Autobots move on to the next generation. Which leader would you choose? It's hard to say because after Prime and Rodimus, there aren't too many in the new generation to pick from. And their characterizations really don't lend themselves to leadership like that. Yeah, that's a really hard question because there's not many answers. You know, like, your answers are like Jinrai and Starsaber, who had a turn at leadership. God, like, there really isn't any character like that. It's like, oh, well, this is absolutely a born leader character who's, like, came after Optimus and Rodimus. Like, it's very hard for me to determine. You know, like, Cybertron Hotshot might get there if we're going, like, out of universe for a second. But yeah, that's a really hard one. I would have to research for that one. Because I'm sure there are options, but like, in my head, there's not too many. Also, I'm just going to say, like, because I had to delete one, some of the... YouTube is very weird about organizing and loading these comments. If that causes me to miss a question, I apologize. But, like, please read the room. Please read the room before you post a comment. Which toy-only TF characters would you like to see in more media? Personally, I would love to see any from Power Core Combiners or Revenge of the Fallen Scout class. Which ones? I mean, I did a whole video that was like, here are the Transformers I love that were only done once. And I think that's my general answer. A lot of times it just comes down to, wow, that's a really cool design. I'd really like for them to use that again. Or, like, that's a really cool character. Why don't they come back? And that's things like Prime Knockout, as far as character. As far as design, it's Cyberverse Hammerbite. For some reason, I'm bringing up quite a few Cybertronian Hammerhead sharks today. I think beyond that, I would have to sit and think about it. But those are two of the go-to answers for me. I would love to see either of them come back. Would you rather have a Transformers series that takes place on Cybertron right after the Ark left the planet, or a series set in between Season 1 and 2 of G1? Honestly, yeah, like, I would love to see the story of, like, what happened between Season 2 and 3, because somehow the Decepticons got back to Cybertron and overtook the entire planet again. So, and then, like, the Autobots had to relocate to Moonbase 1 and 2, and we don't know how that happened. Or why Optimus would abandon Earth in order to take up a post on a moon base. It's very different. And I would love to see what was going on Earth when, like, Autobot City was established, Ultra Magnus came to power there, Hot Rod before he was showing signs of, like, potential leadership skills, that kind of thing. Have you seen the new figures from Metal Cardbots, and have any caught your attention? Unfortunately, no. I really don't pay attention to the Korean robots unless they are put directly in front of my face. I don't go out of my way to follow those. So, unfortunately, I don't have an answer on that one. I would like the studio series to do the same characters for different classes. Okay, that's not a question. Favorite class and subject? Wow. Going back to school days. For me, like, the easy answer is art, because I was always an artistic kid. And by the time I left high school, I was in the highest level art class. It was actually like a college level art class being taught in high school. And there were only 6 kids who made it all the way to that class. I was one of them. And I passed that class with the highest score because my stuff was creative and different. I remember the kid who sat next to me was so salty. Like, I could hear him across the room complaining that I got higher grades than he did because his art was absolutely, technically, on a technical level, far superior to mine. The difference is, he kept doing the same thing. He was a great sketch artist, but he never tried to do anything different. And all of his sketches, even on different themes, were all kind of felt the same. Everything I did was different. I just kept trying new things and coming up with different ideas. And the art teacher really, really liked that. So, yeah. Yeah. Sometimes jack of all trades works better than the one-trick pony. If we're being like normal classes and subjects, actually English. So, like, in high school, I was one of those kids that really struggled until it became challenging. Like, it was because I was bored. I was a smart kid, but I got low grades in my like freshman and sophomore year because it just really didn't interest me. But as I got into the harder classes, things started clicking more. I was one of those kids when we got to English 4, the senior year English class. I was one of those kids with a grade higher than 100. I finished that class with a 101. And the teacher like flat out told me, "You shouldn't be in this class. You should be in my honors class." Unfortunately, I struggled until it was challenging, and then it was really interesting to me. But yeah, like, I really liked English class once it got difficult. If you were to display your TF collection by name, would you put Beast Wars Megatrons with your other Megatrons? And if so, would you put Optimus Primal with your Optimuses? Optimuses. I would put them together, but I would like segment them. So like all my Megatrons would be together, but like Unicron trilogy Megatrons would all be together. Beast Megatrons would all be together. G1 Megatrons would all be together. So like they would all be in the same shelf if I could display that many Megatrons on one shelf now. But I would try to keep the ones that made sense to be together around the same spot. Would you do a video on the various size classes in the toy line? We did a video about how ridiculous the size classes are, and that's kind of going in that direction. I don't really think size classes are something that needs a separate video other than just to explain like what these used to be and like examples of like how big did a deluxe used to be? How big did a Voyager used to be? Here's what we used to have as an ultra class. What does that compare to like on a modern term? As I'm getting uncomfortable in my chair again, I apologize. But yeah, I don't think it's there, like I could talk about that topic, but I don't think it's a particularly interesting topic. It's not one that I would like to discuss. So I assume that it's one that not a lot of people would want to hear. So I would defer just to my video about how the size classes and how they're named is absolutely silly. Who do you think would win on a Transformers Squid Games? To be honest with you, I've never watched Squid Games, so I can't really give you an answer there, unfortunately. Beast Wars Megatron, because smart and tactical. Moving on. Do you think it would be appropriate to refer to combiners with they, them pronouns? I mean, if they asked for that, yes. But so far, we've never had that. The thing is, the combiner is, like, the way that combiners are depicted in Transformers They are kind of an amalgamation of all the, like, the brains of the extra parts, but they aren't, like, identifying themselves as, like, I am, like, 5 in 1. No. Like, Menasor is not, like, all the Stunticons. He's Menasor. You know, it's everybody merged, but they form their own, but the combined form forms its own identity. So, yeah, it's still appropriate to call them he, him, because, you know, we've never had a combiner tell us otherwise. If there was a female mixed into the combination, then I would start considering more gender-neutral terms, but unless a combiner specifically asks, no, like, this is how I like to be identified. Like, I could imagine Computron wanting, like, they, them pronouns because that's the most logical way for a robot. You know, or, like, that's, you know, like, I don't know. But that's, yeah, but, like, keep in mind, like, combiners, once they're combined, are their own character. So, like, it's not like like, you don't refer to them as they, them just because there's 5 of them there. They are their own person. So it's he, or in Victorion's case, she. Do you know that the cyber key that came with Surrey and Campbell can fit in the slot on the throne of Coronation Starscream are our right, his left? That does feel very incidental. I did not know that. It does not feel like it's an intended feature, but kind of curious to know that. See, a girls cartoon / comic starring Alita 1 and Squad, who is replaced by more well-known characters RC Windblade, and which evil female is on Shockwave's side to add some girls to the villains? You're asking me to come up with a series. I'm just gonna skip that now. Mostly because offhand, like, the only thing I would think of here is, like, who is replaced by more well-known characters, character RC / Windblade. Replace who? That's the thing, is like, okay, Alita 1 and her squad and who's replaced. I don't think you replace anybody. I think you just add RC and Windblade to the assortment. You know, like, maybe they're not part of Alita 1's squad, but they can still be in the story. I don't think they actually replace Greenlight or Lancer. You know, and Shockwave would just be like Nightbird and Slipstream. Like, those are the go-to Decepticon females. Maybe Arachnid if you're feeling spicy. Like, I'm not gonna think too much more into a series like that, other than, like, I don't think you have to replace anybody, and I think the Shockwave would have the go-to girls. That's not. I guess in my head when I originally read that, it was a little bit more complicated than it actually was. If Hasbro did a Transformers and Power Rangers crossover, which team of Zords would you like to see get individual robot modes? I think I think that is just, like, perfectly aimed at the Turbo Megazord, because it's already cars, and their counterpart, the Rescue Megazords, already do that. So it's probably fair for them to actually get robot modes, if I'm being real here. The real trick is to do Shogun Zords and give them beast modes. Like actually give them, like, things to turn into. Because, you know, because they're the all robot one. That would make sense. We all know what happened to Sky Gary from the Battlestars, but what happened to Land Gary and Sea Gary? Land Gary, we don't talk about. We know what Land Gary did, and it's appalling. So we're not going to give Land Gary any kind of attention. He doesn't deserve it. And Sea Gary lives in a pineapple under the sea with a sponge. So he's doing well for himself. Why does every single toy of Lockdown give him a Decepticon symbol when every piece of media has explicitly stated he is not a Decepticon? Because some pieces of media, he is a Decepticon. He's a Decepticon in Cyberverse. It's more or less that they don't want to throw too many factions in at once. They, you know, marketing-wise, it makes more sense for them to either always be Autobots or always be Decepticons. Keep in mind, even Unicron, in the right situations, was designated a Decepticon. His original titanium, like little 3-inch titanium figurine, came on the Decepticon base because he's the bad guy. When he was given his own deluxe in Cybertron, he had a Decepticon backdrop and was identified as a Decepticon. You know, it doesn't make sense fictionally, but it's really just done to just separate the toys and designate them the way they're normally designated. So there's no real reason to look into it more than that. Which do you think is worse, the Prime Wars trilogy or Transformers Go? See, Transformers Go is at least short. If I'm going to say anything, I would probably say like Transformers Go, because it is just marketing fluff for the toy line, but it's still trying to be a story, you know, where the Prime Wars trilogy has a ton of story problems, a ton of characterization problems. You know, there's nothing about Transformers Go that hurts. Do I like the toys associated with it? Not really, except for the dragons. Like, I thought those were really cool repaints and retools, but like Kenzon and like all the combiners, I really thought those were gross toys. But the show itself, that's fine. I have no problem with the show itself, other than just like it's a little dull. Would you feel happy if a new member of the Insecticons turned into a praying mantis? And you think, yeah. Okay, you're both wrong. It's a praying mantis, not a prey mantis or a praying mantis. A praying mantis. Obviously, yeah. If you haven't noticed, my favorite bug is a praying mantis. Because I've always been obsessed with them, according to my mom. But that's how my favorite Pokemon ended up being Scyther. And why I have an entire shelf dedicated to Scyther stuff. Yeah. Love a good mantis. Love the good mantis. I would be thrilled if we got an Insecticon one. Are we more likely to get 1 or 2 TFX Trigger collab figures because we know that the TF collabs are now diving in the world of anime? And no bump of chicken doesn't count. Potentially. Here's the thing. Trigger doesn't own much. They're an animation company. They are licensed to produce animations based on other people's media. You know, like, they don't actually own SSSS Gridman. Subaraya Productions owns SSSS Gridman. Trigger just did the animation work on it. So it's not really a strong, like, connection there. I don't think you're not quite connecting dots on that one. The only one that comes to my mind is Panty and Stocking, which technically had a Transformer episode. Don't look it up. Kids, do not look it up. I'm telling you right now. Beyond that, no. Just because they worked with Trigger does not mean there's anything for them to collab with, because Trigger doesn't actually own the properties they animate. So there you go. How does one go about writing a pure evil Megatron? You look at Megatron X from Cyberverse. Pure evil Megatron is like, you don't give him a sympathetic backstory. He is just a violent, calculating conqueror through and through. Like, animated Megatron is a completely evil Megatron because he's a tyrant, he is a conqueror. There is no sad backstory to him. You know, and I would consider him far more evil and more ruthless than the G1 Megatron, because he tries for grand plans instead of, like, little things, like, let's sneak into Autobot base and reprogram them in their sleep. Yeah, it's mostly just about making him as just, like, relentless and unforgivable as possible. You know, he has to be shown doing cruel things with no remorse. He has to have no backstory that makes him any level of sympathetic. And like no care for anyone, not even his own team. Like you have a Starscream that wants to overthrow him, not because he wants power for himself, but because if someone doesn't overthrow Megatron, he's going to kill them all someday. Because he doesn't care about anybody. Not even his own soldiers. See. Well, what do you think of a Transformer story where Shattered Glass Optimus Prime has to fight a Nemesis Prime of himself? Yeah, we don't have a Shattered Glass Nemesis Prime. That's like another go-to concept that they've never actually touched on. Weirdly enough, the closest we get in Shattered Glass is the fact that Shattered Glass Prime was eventually reformatted by Unicron into Nova Prime, who is also Shattered Glass, meaning he's a good guy. So there's that. There is that. And that's as close as we got. There is no Nemesis Prime. It's just like a heroic Decepticon Optimus. God, that's layering so many ways in my head. It's hysterical. The fun part is figuring out what you would actually color it. Like, where would the basis for the color scheme come from? Because you can't do them all white. That's just Ultra Magnus. That's fun. That's a fun little concept. Would you like to see toys of more obscure G1 subgroups like Turbomasters, Predators, or Obliterators? Absolutely. Absolutely. And because we've gotten some really weird out there toys, like Rotor Storm has a new modern toy. It's not off the table. It's entirely possible we get those someday. Now, my personal pick out of those would be the Turbomasters, because I would love a modern boss. Specifically because it means we get a brand new Drift toy. Drift's toy is like ideal for doing a brand new boss. Maybe someday. With Hasbro basically willing to do anything at this point, it's absolutely possible. Can Sideburn as a character be handled better? Absolutely. Sideburn as a character was never really allowed to mature. He's the kid of the Autobot brothers. He is obsessed with chasing red sports cars for things Cybertronians shouldn't be thinking about. Yeah, like you could have him mature out of that. You could have him become like a more like respectable character. Yeah, like absolutely, because like Sideburn in our idea, let's be honest, is kind of one note. You know, he's like a young hotshot hero who oogles red sports cars, and that's what he is from beginning to end in that series. You know, he never really had a chance to develop or grow. Yeah, absolutely could be handled better. What are some of your favorite Transformers commercials? I'm trying to think. Honestly, like some of the ones I get the biggest kick out of, like I like the stop motion ones that Takara did. Those were always really cool. They're more interesting visually to me. I like the I like the one. What else do I like? Modern ones are always very boring. I didn't like any of the modern ones. RID Omega Prime was a fun one. Like the kids both coming down, like running through the house at the same time, transforming their toy just to meet in the middle of the yard to combine them. That's actually a neat little idea. That was fun. Visually made no sense because they had each other's toys in parts of that video. But it's just a commercial. I'm trying to think of what others. Like, actually, weirdly enough, I like the Action Master commercials. Because I kind of like the character designs and animations. And they're trying so hard to make them seem cool when they are obviously very lame. Who's more powerful? Transmetal 2 Megatron from Beast Wars or Optimal Megatron from Beast Machines? I hate to say it, but Optimal Megatron, because you got to remember, he was being fed by a lot of sparks at the same time toward the end of that series. It's kind of hard since there's no, like... there's no real way to, like, parse that, because they never really fought an equivalent enemy at any time. And my gut feeling is saying the Optimal Megatron was more powerful. Give me 1 minute. I just got a message. I'm not going to edit this out. This is just a weirdly timed. Okay. Let's get back to this. Okay, where was I? I gotta go quicker. Let's see, what are your opinions on character art for the packaging latest generation Transformers lines from War for Cybertron Legacy? I think the art's been pretty good. I'd really like to see full character art rather than like just like a headshot on the side of the box. I think it's a little bit dull, to be honest with you. I would love packaging that went back to vehicle modes in package and then like really good artwork of the robot mode to kind of show that like it's a 2-in-1 toy. Yeah. See, yeah, you can see I've already answered this one. Don't ask about Gun Megatron. You will not have the magic solution that Hasbro hasn't been able to figure out in 40 years. I'm sorry, you're not going to figure out something that they haven't figured out. There is no way it will ever happen. It is impossible. It is literally, legally impossible. Never ask me again. Also, I'm gonna do a collection tour when I get my studio done. What do I think of number 1 Sentai Go Juger? I actually love it. Oh my god, this is the most like anticipated I've been for a Sentai in a long time. I love the suit designs. I love the look of the mechs. I'm a little bit odd about how they work, but I want to see how it plays out in the show before I make a judgment on that. But I think visually, everything is stunning. And that's what I've been lacking in so many of these Sentai franchises lately. Boon Boonger, I hate the look of. This is like complete antithesis. I love it. I love it. I'm gonna watch it. What do you think Feathers McGraw would do if he entered the Transformers universe? I'm talking about the scary penguin from Wallace and Gromit. Don't follow Wallace and Gromit. Have no idea who it is. What if Planet Junk was actually one of Unicron's moons made up of the random scrap and junk that Unicron didn't finish? It's a funny idea, because you'd find leftover Unicron trash on there. You'd find like remnants of lithones. You might find random survivors from the planet. That's actually a really... Ooh. What if junk ended up being a planet of refugees? What if, like, a planet of refugees from just, like, the leftover bits that Unicron didn't eat, and it's just, like, one, like, colony of life forms that all manage to survive. They're, like, all of them are the last of their species. Ooh, there's story potential there. Oh, you clicked something in my head on that one. So let's get this straight. Mega Man is the mega evolution of the Pokemon Man, right? Actually, no. It's actually an abbreviation. It's actually a Digimon. So it's like the full name is Mega Man Mon. But we just kind of, in the fandom, we just kind of call him Mega Man. Let's see. Since you mentioned you're a fan of Iron Mouse, do you also watch any YouTubers associated with her, like Sea Dog and abroad in Japan? I watch Sea Dog a bit. There's some other Bishoujo girls I'll watch on occasion. Haruka I like. Zentreya sometimes. I watched Neanners, but I kind of fell off when she left Bishoujo. And there's some of her friends that I watch. Snuffy I've watched a few times. There's no one I really follow the way I follow Iron Mouse. Like, she is favorite. Aside from licensing, why do you think Power Rangers was excluded from Skybound's Energon universe? There is nothing aside from licensing. That is literally the only answer, because Boom Studios still has the license for the comic books, so they can't do comic books for Power Rangers in Skybound. Simple as that. You know, it's just the license is somewhere else. The G1 toys come to life in the real world. I have not thought of the way they do. That's probably for the best. And start fighting each other with their limited articulation. You're describing many stop motion animations out there on YouTube, which tend to be very amusing. It'd be funny to watch. Sad to watch, but kind of funny. What if Optimus was green and had no wheels, but he could control green stuff and become Angry Birds Optimus to lose fights with Megatron? Are you trying to make him a Green Lantern? I'm not sure where this question comes from. You have thoroughly confused me. What are your thoughts on the video games Kamen Rider Memory of Heroes and Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind? And would you play them as a fan of Kamen Rider and Power Rangers? I did an entire stream. We played through all of Memory of Heroes on stream, and it was a fantastic time. I had a lot of fun with that game. Thank you to whoever put English subtitles in that game. Very, very helpful. Appreciated very, very much. Power Rangers Rita's Rewind, I don't feel any need to play because I've heard it is very underwhelming. So I am frankly probably going to skip it. So since Valentine's Day is right around the corner, did you have any crush for any cartoon or movie characters? Honestly, no. I was never that type to like fall in love or like crush on like a fictional character. Like this just never occurred to my brain. Like there's characters I might have like, yeah, there's fictional characters I would find attractive because like they're designed to be, but no one is like, oh, I wish she was my girlfriend. No, never anything like that. And also, I do know that Scott McNeil is attending TF Nation. Someone say hi for me. You've been making videos almost every day for almost 3.5 years. I know you need to do this to keep you afloat financially, but do you ever get or will you ever get tired of making videos at this pace? I mean, probably eventually, but I still feel fine. I will admit, some days I kind of get like a little bit of, I get a little bit of writer's block, but not too much that I can't overcome it. You know, like I've not run out of ideas yet. But no, like honestly, this isn't really that hard to do, so I can maintain it without burning myself out. So, I mean, eventually I'll get sick of it. Eventually I'll run out of ideas. The hope is that other stuff takes off to the point where like, I don't need to make a daily video in order to actually, you know, keep this place afloat. You know, maybe pull it back to every other day or just like the weekdays and take the weekends off. We'll see how Magnetar does. If Magnetar does well enough to supplement that, we might talk about a lighter schedule so I don't lose my mind. And so I could potentially devote more time to producing bigger and better quality videos. Get back to like Plastic Addict and such. Which Transformer would you have bring you to the grocery store? So, there's two answers here. And some are like, well, the practical answer is Ironhide. You know, lots of storage space for the groceries in the back. But the fun answer is Sideswipe, Sunstreaker, Movie Drift. You know, a Bugatti. You know, a $300,000 car just to go to the grocery store. I would laugh. Would you want for TJ Omega Jr. to continue your legacy of daily Transformer videos? No, I wouldn't wish this on anyone else. I do enjoy doing it. I'm joking. I enjoy doing this, but like whatever kid I have someday, they can do whatever they want. If they're into Power Rangers, cool. If they're into Transformers, cool. If they're into Power Rangers, cool. If they're into G.I. Joe, cool. If they're into none of those things, if they're into sports, cool. Like, I'm going to support, you know, whatever kid I have, I'm going to support whatever they want to do and whatever they're into. So, yeah, I wouldn't, like, if they were into Transformers and they wanted to get into YouTubing like Dad, sure, okay, fine. I will show you the ropes and I will encourage you. But I will not actually, like, say, like, oh, no, it's your turn now. I grinded away in, you know, like, I grinded away in the YouTube mines, the content mines for you for all these years to raise you. Well, now it's your turn to take over and support this house. No, I don't care if you're 4. You're playing with toys right now. This should be relevant to you. If Power Rangers ever had a comic crossover with Power Rangers, which team do you want there that isn't Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? I mean, again, Turbo and In Space come to mind because I think they would be funny. Could you have the In Space team piloting Cosmos? I would laugh forever. Kind of depends on what you want to do, really. It's like if you place it in Beast Wars, then something like Wild Force would be fun. You know, things like that. I would like maybe like Turbo just so we could actually have like, aerial bots versus rescue Zords or Stunticons versus rescue Zords, because they could fight in all the modes. POV Dead End asks, how doomed is the Transformer franchise in 2025? It's not. It's really not. We got Cyber World coming out with a brand new toy line and a new series. It's on YouTube, and a lot of you pointed out being on YouTube is actually a really good thing right now. We've got Age of the Primes that a lot of people are excited for. We've got the Haslab that is probably going to be extremely cool. We know, like, we've got a really cool Titan coming out. Like, we're doing fine. We're doing fine right now. I know Chris Cox has us worried about the whole, like, oh, we're shifting to digital media. But keep in mind, Transformers in 2024 was one of the few toy lines they had that showed growth. And anyone who's doing money, they are obsessed with growth. If you show growth, you're doing good. So they are not going to mess with something that is doing good right now. We'll be fine. Stop hitting panic buttons. It's not doing you any good. Let's see. The only question in this one is, would you buy Zen's belt from Kamen Rider Outsiders? I actually haven't watched Outsiders. Like, I really have not watched a lot of Kamen Rider at all the last couple of years. I just haven't had the time to sit down and watch something subtitled. Thoughts on a story idea? Transformers versus Diaclone. An alien force release a virus to take over the minds of all the characters that come. The Diaclone toy line versus the Transformers original characters. Originally character microchains are wild. There are words missing from this sentence that I think are keeping me from parsing this. I don't like alien force and virus stories. Like, I think you're trying to pit the original, like, Car Robots cast versus the characters made just for Transformers. That's a little stacked because a lot of the most powerful characters come from Diaclone molds, including Devastator, by the way. Including Devastator and technically other combiners too, because like the aerial bots, the Stunticons, those were designed for a Diaclone spin-off line. They're designed for a Car Robot spin-off line. In that sense, I think like even Metroplex originally came from those designs. It's why he's compatible with those combiners. No, this would be one-sided. This would be very one-sided. Until Fort Max came around, this might be one-sided. Yeah, Michael Smith, happy birthday. I don't know when your birthday in February is, but I hope it's a good one for you. Okay, Porky Pig has a stutter, not a lisp. I'm not sure if this is a good or bad thing. You're kind of comparing me to Mel Blanc. I will take that as a compliment. How would you feel about a Sentai with an evil Sentai as the main villain? Red would be the leader, blue would be the monster maker, yellow, pink. I actually wouldn't mind this. Because, like, yeah, like generally, yeah, that's not a bad idea if you can make it convincing. But the only problem is with that idea is that the generals and the leaders typically sit back and let the monsters do the work. If you're going to have evil rangers, you'll want to see them fight the heroic rangers, which is not going to happen as often if you have, like, because, like, the main villain of the series needs to sit back and be ominous and build up their menace the entire series before they come in to fight in the final 2 episodes. That's how the formula works. Yeah, I think this would prevent you from like having like the Ranger on Ranger battles. That would be really cool. I know what you're doing here. I'm almost tempted to just like be a little bit harsher than a remove, but like again, TOS. Like if you start sneaking things in, I'm going to like start scanning these beforehand. I like doing this raw so like you can get my genuine reactions to these things. And the questions are like unprepared. But if you start trying to get around my TOS rules, I will start scanning through the questions before I begin recording. I will delete things that are inappropriate, and if you're intentionally trying to be inappropriate to mess up the video, I'll just ban you. Simple as that. Like, I don't want to be mean about it, but I'm kind of trying to protect the channel and the video here. But that said, we're at the end, and the last question here is, what is your most wanted Action Master to get a new toy? The most wanted Action Master... I'm trying to remember Action Masters. There's only a few I really remember. Like, I guess the easy answer is Thundercracker, because I genuinely like that color scheme, even though it looks monstrous. I think it's ugly in a fun way. Beyond that, Slicer did get a new toy, so he's out. Gut Cruncher, I think would be a really fun retool anytime they did... anytime they did, oh god, I'm blanking on the name. Anytime they did like a Warpath, I think that would be a cool retool to go to. I'm trying to think of anyone else, because the problem is like I remember designs or I remember names of Action Masters, but I don't recall both at once. I don't remember Action Masters that well because I never really had many. I only ever had one. As a matter of fact, as a kid, I had Soundwave. Long since lost that one. Today, I only own one. Action Master Thundercracker. But God, those are such easy answers, but they're the only ones I can really think of off the top of my head. I can remember the one that has like the revolver sculpted into his chest, like the revolver, like the gun barrel sticking out of the chest, and then like the bullets and like going around. I could imagine like the drum. I'm trying to remember gun terms now. Figuring out how to do him as a modern toy without making him a gun, that would be fun. But that, like, again, I can't remember his name offhand. But we're gonna end it off there, so because that's all the questions I have. So thank you everyone for going through. I know these are long videos. I do appreciate it. Again, if you have questions for next Q&A, leave them in the comments below right now. And please mind the rules. If people start breaking these, I will start scanning questions and I will start deleting things. So please don't ruin the fun for everybody. But that said, thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time.
You've been waiting a long time, haven't you? But the wait's almost over. You're about to meet the brightest star in the universe. We're going to make an impact.